you and the members of your staff, PS Health, Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports, Assistant Minister for Women, government delegation, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the welcome and the briefing. During the Christmas holidays in 1957, how many of you were in school then? The Christmas holidays that year, we were required to get some medical checks done before we could go on to the provincial school Northern in Budaleru, Sitiveni. So I went to the AMP, Dr. Foy from Rotuma, who was in Natewa at the time. He said he didn't have enough in the health center to be able to give me the kind of certificate required to go into school in Budaleru. So my father and mother brought me here to Lautoka, where my uncle was a doctor here, Dr. Benjamin Loma, and he did all the checks. He was TB specialist, but I was sent to the other doctors who could give me the certificate. After everything, he read everything that the doctors put down on their report, and his recommendation was to the headmaster of Provincial School Northern Budaleru, this student or this boy is not to take part in contact sports. His body is too weak. He's coming to class 6 at age 9. I didn't know what was written in the report until the headmaster read it and told my father. My father told me, you're not allowed to take part in rugby and any contact sports. I said, okay. And my father left to go back to his teaching job in Budaleru. And who would accept a boy going into a boys' boarding school not taking part in contact sports, including boxing? I didn't tell anybody else about the report. I didn't know whether the headmaster knew that I had been told, but my father told me, and I didn't tell anybody else. But I knew, or I was told, you're too weak, you have to do something. So I started building my body up, training the other boys, carrying firewood logs with them on Saturdays, weeding with them, doing everything they did. And then they found out at the end of the third year at school, I was the fastest growing boy in school. From the little boy that went into class 6, I was not a bully, but I was big in class 8. And then on to secondary school where I continued and then excelled in sports and all the other things. But initial diagnosis can either make or break one's life. But the good thing about it is that the patient or the person has the ability and can take on the initiative to change what the doctors tell him or her at that early stage. When we were talking about some of the technical things in our hospital, I said, how early do you detect these? You're talking about that vital 1 hour when they come in. You have to do so many things. But what happened before that 1 hour? How has this boy or girl been growing up, or man or young woman? What has he been eating or smoking that he shouldn't have been? You go back to the population of the world, when the world was populated. People were moving from agrarian societies to civilized hunter-gatherer societies around this part of the world. And they colonized, not only they colonized the land, the island, they colonized their brains. They told them what kind of food to eat or not eat. So we changed our habits, our dietary habits, even our everyday habits. Now, instead of going to the garden, we go to the shop. Instead of catching a fish and scaling it and gutting it, you go to the shop and take it off the shelf, open the can. You are the ones who have been trained to try and cure all the bad habits and what they produce in our bodies when we get to be this age. I congratulate you, all the work that you do. I asked about Coca-Cola and cigarette advertising. We stopped advertising cigarettes a long time ago. We still hero worship those who come out into the screen eating bongos and drinking Coke. Do we listen to the traders, or do we listen to the parents, or do we listen to the doctors? You handle the end product of all these bad habits, or try to. But I don't know when you go home, what do you take home to your children? So perhaps our preventive medicine, curative medicine, all the other levels of it, up to tertiary care, we need to take on as personal responsibilities. And that's where educating the society comes in very, very useful. They need to apologize to me because they didn't tell me I was going to have an address this afternoon. They didn't prepare my brief. And when you're talking to professionals, you're going to be prepared. I'm sorry if I'm not prepared well. I'm just here as a leader. I'm just here as a political leader of a country, populated by many kinds of people with different habits, different lifestyles, where our society, our standards of living and qualities of life differ depending on how you live that life. Where do we link up between the curative part of society, of the professions, and the development part of it, where the Minister for Sports and Youth and Sports come in, where the Minister for Women and Welfare come in, where the Minister for Education come in? Where do we link it all up? When I was talking to the civil servants earlier today, I was telling them that every day I get messages, verbal messages, I get emails from people in society complaining about this or reporting that so-and-so is doing this and that. And I try and palm off the emails and messages to the ministers. It's all about keeping a nation going. And you are just trying to keep that nation going and growing and healthy. As I encouraged the civil servants earlier today to do cross-ministerial talks and conferences, we should also be doing cross-professional consultations and conferences. The end product of all we do is a person. That person, for me, is the voter who votes for me or not for me. How healthy he is. When I come into office, I've got to look after them both. And you give me recommendations on how we can look after them well. Thank you all very much for coming here this afternoon. I don't have any professional knowledge to pass on to you. I just rely on the sciences. You understand the science. When it comes to me, in the form of scientific advice, I say, oh yeah, let's say that. They asked me why, and I said, ask the scientists. When you tell me to say to Fiji, wear a mask, Dr. Fong is smiling away. When I came in, you were all wearing masks. I came in only in December last year, so we all wore masks together. So whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability, do what is right, have malice towards none. Enough.